The first voicemail hit my phone at 5:16 in the morning. A man's voice, low, shaky, like he was scared someone might hear him, whispered, "Sir, we're trapped." The trucks never came. For a second, I just stared at the screen like it had to be a mistake. Then he said it again, faster this time, panic creeping into every word. "We're in Spring Fox Heights. The gate won't open. Nobody can get out." Spring Fox Heights. The same gated community that fired me 3 weeks ago like I was yesterday's trash. Outside my window, the storm was thickening into something serious. The kind of blizzard that doesn't just make the roads slippery, it erases them. By noon, their streets would be buried. By sunset, that shiny gate they love so much would be frozen shut. And inside, people would start running out of the things that matter: heat, medicine, patience, time. But what made my stomach turn wasn't the snow. It was what happened next. Because their HOA president didn't just lock me out. She blamed me for the disaster she created. And that's when I realized something. In a blizzard, snow isn't what kills you first. It's the decisions people make behind closed doors. If you want to hear more true stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button to HOA Update. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? My name is Richard Hale, and I've been pushing snow in Clearwater County for almost 20 years. Long enough to know that winter doesn't ask permission before it wrecks your plans. Long enough to know that the difference between annoying weather and a real disaster is usually one thing: whether the right roads get cleared in time. Most people hear snow removal and picture some guy cruising down a quiet street cleaning up driveways so folks can get to work. But out here, that's not what my job is. Not really. My job is keeping the county breathing. Hospital routes, fire station roads, emergency lanes, the narrow back roads where an ambulance can't afford to get stuck. When the snow starts coming down hard, every decision is a matter of priority, because when snow wins, it doesn't just trap cars, it traps people. And I've always taken that seriously. Spring Fox Heights never did. If you've never seen it, picture this: a shiny gated community perched up on a hill like it's trying to look down on the rest of us. Stone pillars at the entrance, decorative lamps, perfect landscaping in the summer. In winter, they still tried to pretend their neighborhood was untouchable, like money could buy insulation from reality. They were obsessed with standards. It wasn't enough for their streets to be safe. They wanted them to look pretty while being safe. Like snow was a decoration and not a threat. That's where Margot Quincy came in. She became the new HOA president and immediately started acting like she'd been elected governor of the weather. The first time she stepped into my yard, she didn't greet me like a person. She greeted me like a manager addressing an employee who'd already disappointed her. "Mr. Hale," she said, holding a folder like it was a weapon, "we need to adjust our service expectations." "What kind of adjustment?" I asked. She didn't blink. "We should be cleared first. Every storm. We're the priority." I actually laughed just once because it was so ridiculous I thought she had to be joking, but she wasn't. "County emergency routes come first," I told her. "That means the hospital roads, the fire station loop, school bus routes. That's how it works. That's how people stay alive." Her smile tightened like I'd insulted her. "So you're refusing?" "I'm doing my job," I said. Margot's eyes went cold. "Then we'll review your contract." She didn't review a thing. A week later, my office received a termination notice written in polished corporate language by someone who had clearly never held a shovel. It said my response time was inconsistent. It claimed my work didn't meet community standards. And I'll never forget this part: they even wrote that my plowing negatively affected neighborhood aesthetics. I could have fought it. I could have argued. But I didn't. I updated my county routes, took on other clients, and moved forward, because I've learned something people like Margot never do. Storms don't care about money or ego. They don't negotiate. They don't bend for power trips. They just arrive and collect the bill. By mid-morning, the blizzard stopped being weather and turned into a full-on threat. The county alerts weren't even trying to sound polite anymore. Whiteout conditions. Zero visibility in open stretches. Wind strong enough to throw snow sideways like sand. Drifts forming so fast you could clear a road at 8 and find it buried again by 8:30. It was the kind of storm that didn't just slow life down. It shut it off. My crew was already moving before sunrise. 2 trucks on the hospital loop, 1 on the fire station route, another running the main emergency corridor that connected 3 towns. We worked in shifts, swapping drivers like it was a relay, because in a storm like that, you don't win by being brave, you win by staying awake. Every time a plow blade hit packed snow, sparks flew. Every time we turned a corner, the wind tried to shove us off the road like it had a personal grudge. That's when my phone started lighting up. At first I ignored it. I couldn't afford distractions with my guys out there. But the calls didn't stop. They multiplied. Unknown numbers. Blocked numbers. Voicemails stacking up so fast, my inbox looked like a countdown. When I finally picked one up, a woman didn't even bother saying hello. She sounded like she was crying. "Richard, this is Spring Fox Heights. We can't get out. My husband has to get to dialysis. Please, can you come?" Another call came in before I could breathe. "Sir, I don't care what happened with the HOA. We just need help. Our street is buried." Then a third, then a fourth. Spring Fox Heights residents were calling me directly, like my number was the only lifeline they could think of when the snow started swallowing their neighborhood. And that's the part nobody tells you about this job. The guilt. The weight of hearing fear in someone's voice and knowing you're the person they think can fix it. I wanted to help them. I did, but I also knew the reality. I wasn't contracted there anymore. Margot Quincy made sure of that. If I pushed into their community without permission, without access, without paperwork, I'd be risking my crew, my equipment, and my entire business. One wrong move, and she'd turn it into a lawsuit that would bury me deeper than any storm ever could. Cole, my foreman, saw my face and came up beside me. "Boss," he said quietly, like he didn't want the guys to hear, "they're going to lock up fast. You know that hill. Once it drifts over, it's done." I looked out at the sky, then back at my route map. The hospital, the fire station, the emergency lanes. People's lives depended on those being open, and I wasn't about to gamble with that for a community that treated safety like a luxury service. So I made the call. "We stick to county priority," I said. Right on cue, my phone rang again. This time, the name flashed on the screen like a warning label. "Margot Quincy." I answered. Her voice snapped through the speaker like a whip. "Why aren't you here?" "Because you fired me," I said evenly. She didn't even pause. "This is an emergency. We need you. Now." And then she said the part that made my jaw tighten. "We can renegotiate compensation in the middle of a blizzard, with people panicking." She still treated it like a business deal, like she was doing me a favor by offering money. I took a breath and said, "Open the gate and we'll talk." A short silence. Then she replied, calm and final, "That won't be possible." That was the moment the truth hit me harder than any gust of wind. This wasn't about snow. It was about control. The drone footage came in while I was still in my workshop, staring at the weather radar like it owed me answers. One of my guys had launched it just to check visibility down near the county intersection, but the moment the live feed popped onto the screen, my stomach dropped. There it was. The entrance to Spring Fox Heights. Only it didn't look the way I remembered. They'd installed a brand new gate, taller, shinier, the kind of upgrade people buy when they want to feel powerful. The keypad panel was already glazed over with ice, frosted so thick you couldn't even make out the numbers. Snow piled against the base like the storm was building its own wall, and right beside it, bolted to a fresh post like a warning to the world, was a sign so new it still looked clean. UNAPADPA. This wasn't me being off contract. This wasn't about money. They had physically locked me out. Inside the community, the situation was already unraveling. Videos started popping up online, one after another, like desperation had turned everyone into reporters. Residents were filming their driveways where the snow was up to the bumper. Someone recorded the main road inside the gate, just a white slope with tire tracks that vanished halfway down, like somebody had driven straight into nothing. You could hear it in their voices too. That shift from annoyance to fear. Where are the plows? Why hasn't anyone come? We can't get out. Then the replacement company rolled in, Alpine Crest Services, the HOA's new preferred vendor. Except what showed up wasn't a real plow truck. It was a van. A plain work van with a logo slapped on the side like that was supposed to count as experience. No chains on the tires. No blade on the front. No salt spreader. Just a driver who looked like he'd never seen a hill in a whiteout before. The van tried to climb the approach road, slid sideways like a toy on glass, fishtailed once, and then backed away, slowly, carefully, like the driver didn't want to be the next person trapped. And that's when things inside Spring Fox Heights stopped being inconvenient and started being dangerous. An older man needed his heart medication. A kid started getting sick, and their parents couldn't reach a pharmacy. Heaters struggled as the power flickered on and off. People's phones were dying, and their patience went with them. You could almost feel the panic rising like heat, except there wasn't enough heat to spare. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my store notebook, the one I've carried for years because memory can be questioned, but ink can't. I wrote 2 words, gate locked. Then I underlined them so hard the paper nearly tore, because in that moment, the truth became crystal clear. They didn't lock me out, they locked themselves in. The storm hadn't even peaked yet when Margot made her next move. She didn't call me again. She didn't ask for help. She didn't admit she'd made a mistake. No, Margot Quincy did what people like her always do when consequences start closing in. She went hunting for a scapegoat. Around noon, while my trucks were still grinding through whiteout conditions and keeping the hospital route open, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Not calls this time, messages, screenshots, quote, tags, links. The Spring Fox Heights HOA had blasted out something titled Emergency Service Notice. It was written in that cold official tone they use when they want to sound righteous. The notice claimed that I had abandoned the community during a critical weather event. It said I refused service when residents needed me most. It even suggested that I had prioritized profit over safety, which was rich coming from a woman who fired me over aesthetics. But the real poison was the attachment. A video clip. It was a recording from weeks earlier, back when Margot first demanded Spring Fox Heights be cleared ahead of emergency routes. Only now, the conversation was chopped up like a bad magic trick. They cut out her threats. They cut out the part where I explained county priority. They removed every sentence that made her look unreasonable. All that was left was my voice, framed perfectly in the worst way possible. No, I'm not coming. That was it. One line, one edit, one carefully crafted lie, and it worked. Within minutes, neighborhood groups started lighting me up like I'd committed a crime. People I'd never met were calling me a monster, a fraud, a greedy contractor who left families stranded in a blizzard. Someone posted my business page and wrote, "Do not hire this man." Another person commented, "Hope you lose everything." Then a local reporter picked it up. The headline hit harder than the wind outside. Snow contractor leaves gated community. Stranded, my shop phone started ringing off the hook. But these weren't residents begging for help anymore. These were angry strangers shouting into the receiver. Clients demanding explanations. People canceling contracts before I could even speak. One man screamed that he was calling his lawyer. Another threatened to report me to the county, like my crew hadn't been out there all day keeping ambulances from getting stuck. Cole walked in, saw my face, and lowered his voice. "Boss, this can ruin us." I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the screen, watching my reputation get dragged through the same snow my guys were fighting. I could feel anger trying to climb up my throat. But I didn't let it. I've learned something over 20 years in this work. Panic makes you sloppy, and sloppiness gets people killed. So I went still, cold, quiet, focused, because in that moment I understood exactly what Margot was doing. She wasn't just trying to blame me, she was trying to bury me. I looked at Cole and said the sentence that changed everything. If she's willing to edit a video, she's willing to falsify anything. And that's when my fight shifted. I wasn't fighting snow anymore. I was fighting a frame job. I didn't waste time arguing online. I didn't post angry replies. I didn't beg people to believe me. Because once a lie spreads in a storm, it moves faster than any plow ever could. Instead, I did what I've always done when things turn dangerous. I documented everything. I turned into a machine. First, I pulled the GPS logs from every truck in my fleet, each route, each timestamp, every stop, every mile logged in the whiteout. It was all there in black and white. My drivers clearing hospital lanes, fire station roads, and emergency corridors, while Spring Fox Heights sat behind their gate, untouched by choice, not neglect. Then I saved the voicemail from 5:16 in the morning. The whisper, the panic, the words that proved they were trapped, and that they knew it. "Sir, we're trapped. The trucks never came." I backed it up twice. Once on my phone, once on my office computer, because something told me Margot wouldn't stop at one dirty trick. After that, I started building a timeline. Every call, every message, every plea from inside Spring Fox Heights, names, numbers, times. I didn't even listen to them all at first. I just logged them, one after another, until my notepad looked like a crime report. Because if I was going to survive this, I needed facts, not feelings. And then I made the call that mattered. I rang Sheriff Donnelly. He wasn't just law enforcement, he was the kind of man who'd watched Clearwater County fight storms for decades. The kind of man who understood that snow doesn't create chaos on its own, it just exposes what was already broken. When he answered, I didn't launch into drama. I said one sentence, "Don, I'm being set up." There was a pause. Then his voice sharpened. "Tell me what happened." I explained the gate, the calls, the edited video, the public smear. When I finished, he exhaled slow. "Richard, you know there's a county traffic camera near that entrance, right?" My heart kicked. "I need whatever it caught," I said. "I'll see what I can pull," he replied. "But with this storm, footage might be messy." "Messy is fine," I told him. "I just need truth." While I waited, Spring Fox Heights was falling apart from the inside. The videos coming out weren't just complaints anymore. They were screaming matches in driveways, neighbors yelling at neighbors, people blaming the new contractor, people blaming the system. And underneath it all, the real blame sat like a shadow on everyone's tongue, Margot. But most wouldn't say it out loud, not yet. They were scared, because Margot wasn't just the HOA president. She was the type who punished anyone who embarrassed her. People in that community had spent years learning to stay quiet to avoid becoming her next target. Then the message came in that turned my stomach again. One resident had tried to walk out through the drifted road, thinking they could make it to the highway. They didn't. They collapsed from the cold and had to be taken out on a rescue sled when the wind eased for 10 minutes. And still, Margot kept pushing the story that I was the villain. Hours passed. My whole reputation hung on one question. Did the camera catch anything? Then my phone buzzed. A file from Donnelly. No explanation, no warning. Just the footage. I opened it, hit play, and leaned forward as the screen flickered to life. And the second I saw what was on it, I whispered to myself, "Oh, she's done." The courtroom didn't feel like justice at first. It felt like theater. The kind where the verdict is decided before anyone even speaks, and the rest is just performance for the audience. Margot Quincy walked in like she owned the place. Perfect hair, sharp blazer, calm smile. She didn't look like a woman who'd trapped an entire community behind a frozen gate during a blizzard. She looked like a woman arriving to collect applause. Her lawyer followed close behind, carrying a thick folder like it was a weapon, and Margot took her seat with the confidence of someone who believed she could talk her way out of anything. When the judge called the case, her attorney stood up and spoke like he was announcing a scandal on the evening news. "Your Honor," he said, "Mr. Richard Hale neglected his professional obligations and refused emergency service to Spring Fox Heights during a critical weather event. Residents were left trapped, exposed to dangerous conditions, and suffering medical harm because of his abandonment." I felt every eye shift toward me. Some were angry. Some were curious. A few looked like they wanted to believe me but didn't know how. Margot didn't look at me once. She didn't need to. In her mind, the edited video had already convicted me. Then my attorney stood, calm, quiet, no drama. Just a man who knew the truth, didn't need shouting. "Your Honor," he said, "we'd like to submit Exhibit A." The bailiff rolled a monitor forward. My lawyer hit play. The screen flickered, and suddenly the room wasn't watching opinions anymore. It was watching evidence. There was the entrance to Spring Fox Heights on the storm day, wind howling, snow screaming sideways across the camera like it was alive. Then the image sharpened. Margot, standing at the gate, pointing. A security guard beside her, fumbling with the panel. And then, clear as day, the guard typed in a new access code. The gate beeped. The system reset. A second later, the gate arms lowered and shut like a trap snapping closed. Then came the part that sucked the air out of the room. Two men stepped into frame and bolted up the sign. Unapproved service vehicles. Prohibited. A ripple moved across the courtroom. People gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Even a few Spring Fox Heights residents sitting in the back looked like they'd been punched in the stomach. Margot's face didn't change right away. She tried to keep her expression smooth, but I saw it, the tiniest twitch in her jaw, the first crack. My attorney didn't let her breathe. "Exhibit B," he said, holding up a printed document. An emergency access policy signed by Ms. Quincy herself. The judge looked down at it, reading carefully. It was the HOA's own rule, written under the excuse of security measures restricting access to HOA-approved vendors only, even during emergencies. Then came Exhibit C, the full transcript of that refusal video, line by line, time-stamped, showing what the HOA cut out, showing what Margot didn't want anyone to hear, her threats, her demands, her insistence that Spring Fox Heights be cleared before hospitals. The judge's eyes lifted slowly from the paperwork to Margot, and his voice, when he spoke, was quiet, almost calm. "How could he clear snow," the judge asked, "if your gate denied his truck's access?" Margot opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her lawyer shifted, suddenly unsure. Margot tried again, but the confidence was gone now. The room could feel it. The mask wasn't slipping anymore, it was breaking. The judge leaned forward. "This court finds the HOA acted negligently," he said firmly. "These policies endangered residents during a severe storm event. An investigation will be ordered into Spring Fox Heights' emergency procedures and leadership decisions." And just like that, the story Margot built to bury me collapsed on top of her. The funny thing about lies is how loud they are when they're winning, and how silent they become the moment the truth shows up. The day after court, the same people who had been dragging my name through the snow suddenly went quiet. The local news station that ran that headline didn't celebrate their mistake. They corrected it like it was an oops and not a grenade tossed into my business. But they corrected it. The updated story played again, this time with a very different tone. Spring Fox Heights. HOA policies under investigation. After blizzard lockdown. My phone didn't ring with angry strangers anymore. It rang with apologies. Some came as awkward messages that didn't know how to sound sincere. Hey, saw the footage. Sorry. Looks like you got blamed for something you didn't do. Hope your business is okay. The community groups that had posted the edited video? A few deleted their posts completely. Others left them up but changed the comments, suddenly acting like they'd always had questions. One woman, someone who'd called me a monster the day before, actually wrote, "I was wrong. I reacted before I knew the facts." That was rare. I respected that. Inside Spring Fox Heights, things didn't just shift. They cracked. An emergency HOA meeting was called so fast it felt like panic in paper form. Residents who'd been too scared to speak up before started showing up in person, not behind screens. People were furious, not because they were embarrassed, but because they realized how close they came to a tragedy. All those security upgrades Margot bragged about, now they were being called what they really were, hazards. Margot faced a removal vote. And for the first time since she'd taken that position, she didn't look untouchable. She looked like a woman finally meeting the consequences she thought only happened to other people. The HOA was forced to rewrite their policies immediately. No more approved vendors only during emergencies. The gate access had to allow emergency responders, county services, and contracted help to enter without delay. They couldn't hide behind the word safety anymore when their rules had put lives at risk. And Alpine Crest Services? Their contract was canceled before the ink had time to feel dry. Turns out people don't care about a shiny logo when they're freezing in their own homes. My business recovered slowly, then all at once. Old clients called back. Some sounded embarrassed. Some sounded angry on my behalf. One man who'd canceled on me during the chaos said, "Richard, I messed up. I should have waited. You saved this county more times than people even know." The county even issued a public statement thanking my crew for keeping emergency routes open during the storm. It wasn't flashy, but it mattered. My guys deserved to hear that their work was seen. A few Spring Fox Heights residents came to my shop in person, not to argue, to apologize. An older woman stood there with her hands shaking slightly, eyes tired, and said, "We believed the wrong person." "I'm sorry." I nodded. "Fear makes people easy to manipulate," I told her. "And some folks know exactly how to use that." When they left, I stood in the doorway and watched the snow melt off the edges of the pavement, like the storm had never happened. But I knew better. Margot wanted control, and the storm gave her consequences. After everything was said and done, I kept thinking about that gate. Spring Fox Heights built it like a trophy. Like a wall could protect them from reality. But when the storm came, that gate didn't create safety, it created a trap. It didn't keep danger out, it kept help away. And the people inside paid the price for believing metal and money could replace common sense. That's what I learned the hard way. Money doesn't replace competence. You can hire the cheapest company, the flashiest company, the one with the smoothest sales pitch. But when the wind is screaming and the snow is climbing, none of that matters. What matters is who shows up prepared, who knows the routes, who understands what's actually at risk. And leadership? Leadership without responsibility is just power in a costume. Margot didn't want to protect her community. She wanted to control it. And when the storm tested her, she didn't step up. She looked for someone else to blame. The scariest part wasn't even the blizzard. It was how fast people believed the lie. One edited clip, one official-looking notice, and suddenly, strangers were ready to tear my life apart without asking a single question. That's what fear does. It makes people desperate for a villain. But the real hero in all of this wasn't strength. It wasn't shouting. It wasn't even winning in court. It was staying calm, writing things down, saving every timestamp, every voicemail, every fact, because in the end, truth doesn't need noise. It just needs proof. Snow melts. Evidence doesn't. If you want to hear more true stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button to HOA Update and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from?